webinar today. So take it away, Joe.
Paul, thank you. And wow, thank you to all our participants today. We had this face-to-face meeting for farmers in bioscience in Philadelphia, and we got a great turnout. Probably 40 people came to see this and see how we're playing with it and working with it and all the use cases. And the one pushback we got was, can you guys do this virtual? So we tried to throw that together quickly, and lo and behold, we went and announced it, and it got circulated, and we have close to 200 registrants just in this segment to hear, what we've experienced, what we've learned, and we want to share that with you today. I'm not going to be talking a long time because we got some really smart guys that want to talk to you. And I always go back to what Michael Dell once said, since Dell's one of our key partners here. He said, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I need to find another room. So I'm going to quickly find another room here because I am not the smartest guy in this room. Trust me. I'm the CEO of MacTrax. I'm an operating partner with Capital Square Partners, who's a leading private equity in IT services. And, I'm a proud senior advisor to the Accion founders and also a 30-year Dell partner. So what I did when I started to advise Accion, I said, guys, I got to put two great companies together. And so I made the introduction with Accion and Dell. And that was 4 years ago. Accion's gotten involved in, 30, 50 different internal development projects at Dell. And now they have been added to the Dell AI factory, which if anybody's following this, it's Dell and NVIDIA, and they have gotten the most traction in the world with this. They have the most use cases. Their CEO and founder, Michael, this all reports directly into him. It's a major initiative. It's used internally at Dell in very, very rigorous environments because they're not going to put it out there until they use it themselves. So that's what we have here today. And we have great partners. We have Accion Labs, we have Dell, and we have Razor Technology, who's a leader in integrating Dell hardware, storage, services, software. So they're a co-sponsor with us today. Paul, could you let's put up the chart on our panelists, if you could. So we put together a great group here, and we start with Alex Long. And Alex is just met him a few weeks ago, but quickly, I hope became his friend because I want to introduce him to everybody in my network. That's how good he is. But Alex has been in this industry almost not as long as me, but close. And he's the head of this initiative. He's the head of life sciences at Dell Technologies, which is a big job. This is a big application. Dell, as you know, I think many of their great customers are on here, the likes of Johnson & Johnson and all the AstraZeneca. I shouldn't start naming them. Most of the big guys are here, and the medium guys and the little guys. They're all Dell. Somebody's buying something from Dell somewhere. So we have Alex, and Alex has a lot of great information to share with you today, what they're learning. We're not forcing, this is not a hard-pressed sale thing. This is, guys, this is what we found. This is what we see. This is the pitfalls. We're a resource for you. If you want to tap into us, we're here for you. That's really the messaging. We want to be in your network. And I think you'll like what you hear today. We have Bhushan Bonde, very, very decorated in this industry, wrote a book, actually, that's very well received. It's used as a textbook, High Performance Computing for Drug Discovery and Bioscience. He's a PhD from Oxford. He teaches still. He's on loan to us as a very, very welcomed consultant and advisor to Accion. And he really works directly with a lot of our customers that are on this journey in pharma and bioscience. We also have Jay Deshpande, who's quickly become my friend. He is the president of GenAI at Accion Labs. He's also the co-founder of eZest, which is an Accion subsidiary. He's one of the leading experts in large language model, data, all this stuff. And he has real-world use cases that he's done. He's also the inventor of a thing called GenAI in a box, which you'll hear today, which is part of the Dell AI Factory. It's accelerators that quicken this interesting journey that you get on in these Gen AI applications. So that's who we have here today. Look, let's have fun. Let's collaborate. Tell us what you know. We'll tell you what we know. Let's be in everyone's network. Let's help one another. So, Alex, it's all yours, buddy. Take the microphone.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for the ability to share today. If I could share my screen, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully this is starting to show up. And again, I'd like to say thank you to the team. Thanks for the opportunity to present. Certainly thanks for the ability to communicate about what we're seeing. To your earlier point of the conversation, this is, I promise, not going to be a diatribe of all the Dell products that I think you should buy, but rather sort of a communication on what we're seeing in the industry. And before we dive too deep into this, I would call out that Dell Technologies is very concerned with the entirety of the therapeutic ecosystem, right? So when you're starting to think about life sciences and how it does, we always have to remember that it's a clinical outcome that people are looking for. And one of the things that I would say that's uniform in this discussion is everyone that I know that's involved in life sciences, with very, very rare exception, cares passionately about solving real problems. And so that's why I'm here, and why I'm investing the time and effort that I put into it, is because I'm extremely interested in this. I'm extremely interested in helping. So a big chunk of what we're talking about today is going to be around that, because the industry is getting overhauled, right? We're seeing real challenges to the old way of doing therapeutics. My favorite line that I heard from a renowned person in a renowned company is, we used to take a decade, we're now taking 10 months to bring a new therapeutic to market. And that's crazy in terms of what has to happen. And you're seeing new care delivery, you're seeing higher demand from patients for personalized stuff, and the business is responding, right? Accelerated launches and automated and intelligent distribution capabilities. These are real things happening in the industry. And they're hard to deal with, and they're hard to be a part of. And so, when I look at the marketplace, I look at what's happening, the new pricing pressure, the competition, there's these challenges, and Dell really has tried to tailor some of what we do to support those things, in particular around the research and development side. And the thing I also like telling people, because it's easy to start talking product, but I'm going to talk rather everything else but product. Why do you care about Dell Technologies in this conversation? Why am I invested here? Why do I stay at Dell Technologies? Why do I invest my time? Because I get to be an expert in IT and infrastructure for healthcare, biopharma, and research, right? I get to work with people every day who have been a part of this process for years and years, and understand that actually tuning the HPC this way will improve your protein discovery process. It will improve your understanding of a ligand or structure-based finding. It will do that, small molecule or large, right? We've worked together to figure out how to help work with those different groups. The portfolio we have, the partner ecosystem, like, look, the fact that we get to partner with people like these are big deals, and they matter, because at the end of the day, we don't want you as researchers spending your time thinking or worrying about your hard drive. We want you spending your time thinking and worrying about, do I have the right protein? Have I figured out the right biomarker? And then data sovereignty. Look, we're not going to at any point become a pharma. That's not our goal. Our goal is to accelerate what you're discovering and what you're finding. And here's the other big problem that we're seeing. Data growth is accelerating. My favorite discussion that people just, it's so big, it's beyond comprehension. In 2021, it was estimated that there were 79 zettabytes of digital data out there. By 2025, it's expected to be 180. it's more than doubling, guys. It's getting crazy huge in just 4 years. And 30% of that is healthcare and life sciences data. And it's tempting to go, well, medical imaging and those types of things. It's part of that, but a big chunk of it is the data about our genome, the data, the proteomics discoveries, all the things happening in cryo-EM and cryo-ET, all the confocal microscopy instruments that are starting to happen. That's what's driving these huge growths. And you simply put, as a human being, can't keep up with it. You need to figure out how to leverage AI to get in there. And this is part of the conversation that we're having today is, well, okay, so we just get some of that AI, right? Well, we're going to talk about the difficulties of deployment and what that means and how you help sort of bridge the gap of the discussion to the practical enablement. Because at the end of the day, the big issue that you run into for this industry is you've got to figure out cost management. You've got to figure out how you're going to manage platforms in such a way that you have access to your data when and where you need it globally, right? Research is no longer in a small silo, it's global. Whether that's open source information, or that's accessing labs in other locations, or it's partnering with academic centers. And mastering that data, understanding that the metadata about things matters, understanding that you need what's often referred to as security beyond compliance, right? One of the things that I think a lot of people in the industry, outside of the industry rather, don't understand is truly how complex securing this data is and how much it matters to not only your business, but your research capabilities and your ability to deliver. And so subsequently, we know that AI is the answer, right? We know that you're worried about things, but we know that AI can really help do these things. And we know that by leveraging an AI model, as in particular the generative AI and the extracted AI models that we're starting to see happen, we can start accelerating opportunity. A well-known pharma said this to me, and I always loved it. I'm sitting on 400 years of data, and I don't know how to access it. 400 years of data, and I don't know how to access it. You can't tell me that there's not insights about how to solve medical conditions in that data. So this is where we start looking at and saying, okay, why aren't you adopting it? And it's pretty simple. I'm happy to dive into details with anybody, but the two things that we see are the big issues. We need additional resources because it turns out AI isn't just a simple deployment model. It turns out it requires things. And we need improved direction. We don't know where to start. And so as an organization at Dell Technologies, we sort of pride ourselves on saying, okay, we can help. I'm good at IT. I know how to help there. So this is a little bit of a joke slide. I really do love talking about this because, and I'll make fun of my peers. Dell Technologies will get in front of you and go, here's AI. It's pretty simple. You just need some storage and some software, you just run some training and it's all good. It's really easy. Here's the problem. You need to pick some of these. And the picking some of these and the understanding how to leverage some of these, this is incredibly difficult. And no offense to anybody, but you log on to any of their websites, including Dell's sometimes, and, oh, we just solved everything. Don't worry about it. Everything's solved. And the problem is it's not. And the problem is you have real problems to deal with and you have real issues that you need to understand. And by the way, one of my favorite discussions, is it structured or unstructured? I don't know. Okay, well, we need to figure that out. And by the way, it's both, right? You have a multimodal system that you need to build, and you need to be thoughtful of sometimes clinically relevant data and PHI, and how do you anonymize that, and how do you think about that, and what, right? It's a real problem. A new guru, they want to, again, I get to work with a lot of pharmas, but one of my favorite discussions that we just had, they just assigned a new, and I'm the czar of AI for this company. That's their title. And she said in a month and a half, she had 125 new AI projects dropped on her lap as being required to get done. She'd been there a month and a half, 125 new AI projects, and all of them were absolutely sure that it shouldn't be that hard. It's nuts. It's crazy, right? So first off, I'm going to call out some partners here. Dell Technologies works with these partners, and you'll see one right on the top. And I'm not joking. They're a part of our ecosystem of partners for delivery, and it's an important discussion point for us. And then we work with people that deliver things as a service with AI, right? They have their delivery service. They're leveraging AI for their service, and we work with them and we partner with them, and we're ready to go. But we also have people that have developed AI platforms that we think these function, these work. We know they do. I got a real privilege to work with the Intel Getty team personally on developing something for the Mayo Clinic. I've had the opportunity certainly to work with the Starburst team on dealing with masses of structured data that they need to get talking to each other. And then we obviously work with people that host either AI as a service or hosting as a service, depending upon what you need. And then certainly the partners down below, I'm sure you guys have heard of them: NVIDIA, Canonical, Intel, Red Hat, and AMD. Those are well-known partners in the space. So one of the things that I also like to talk about is that the proof is in the pudding. Well, here's some pudding, right? Each of these are all referenceable customers that Dell has worked with that have helped develop, train, and build out life sciences and healthcare systems specifically to support AI modeling to improve the delivery of care or improve research capabilities. One that I'll point out, one of my favorite, because I got an opportunity to present with them on a stage, was the multimodal LLM with Northwestern Medicine. Here's a data scientist getting his healthcare degree who is now developing a multimodal LLM to improve the delivery of care by pre-understanding the medical image and pulling in structured data to pre-enter things for their radiology reports. Everybody and their mom wants to adopt that now, right? Radiologists, notoriously difficult to work with sometimes. Oh, they're clamoring. When do I get to sign up to get this? Right? Our ability to work with next generation sequencing. Anybody paying attention to this market, you're about to see an explosion of next generation sequencing. Okay, we're ready. And here's the other bit that I love talking about: use cases. Boy, use cases are proliferating, right? That 120, that's nothing. I'm sure you can go online, you can find 120 more without even thinking about it. And I bring these out by drug design, clinical trial, and pharma manufacturing as examples. You are seeing more and more of these pop up. You're seeing more and more of these become important. But I want to direct your attention to the frameworks on the side, because those AI frameworks, wow, they remain consistent regardless of the use case that you're talking about. They keep on popping up, those same frameworks. And when we start talking about those frameworks, we start talking about what they mean. We start saying, okay, well, there's AI management and infrastructure management and Dell infrastructure for AI. And I promise at the beginning, I'm not going to sell a bunch of Dell stuff, but I'm going to talk about that what we've done is made sure that we've simplified AI deployment on the infrastructure side by pulling in partners like Accion Labs and pulling in other partners that you need, and then creating an infrastructure that's easy, right? Because if you look again, those AI frameworks, they're the same. But now you've got generative AI frameworks, and you've got to think about container orchestration and cluster management. And by the way, you've got Slurm, and then do we have 8-way nodes or 4-way nodes, or do we just need CPUs? And how's this all going to work? Well, it turns out we've got answers that try to make things simple for you, right? We work with these partners to make sure that's happened. And I think the other bit that we do that I'm very proud of is those frameworks have validated design, making your life easier, right? And why do you want validated designs? Because I'm not going to bother you with more product slides. This on-prem deployment winds up being 75% more cost effective. 75%. Now repeat that, 75%. When you're dealing with the amount and explosive growth of data and research that you are requiring as a company to perform, reduction of that cost is a big deal. 100% access all the time. Then you've got the faster time to value, decreased time spent, all really good things. And then there's Dell Data Management. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up our Dell Data Lakehouse. Because when you're dealing with the structured data systems that are out there, your ability to have a unified vision of that, your ability to pull that data quickly and leave that data where it is, but have the index to be able to understand where that data is and have a single point of view, a single pane of glass into that. It's a massive opportunity for everybody to improve their capabilities within their research engines, to improve the delivery of things. And then there's the Dell Data Lakehouse structure. I'm, again, happy to walk through this, but this is where you can start working with partners to go, hey, I want this delivered. I need this. I don't want to be thinking about this every day. That's how we do this. And then the Dell AI Factory. There's not a lot that I look at and go, this is a no-brainer for a company that's trying to figure out how to do AI. This is a no-brainer for a company that's trying to figure out how to do AI. We've worked with NVIDIA. We've worked with the services organizations, like people on the phone, to figure out how to get you to deploy AI for your use case. Because for researchers, I don't want you to care about this. You're solving cancer, you're curing problems. I mean, these are real world things that are happening where we are delivering against real world problems. I want us to take care of this problem for you. So as we as a partner explore this, that's what I get excited about. And look, this is validated. It works. We've got the right partners selected. We've done all of this work. There's a bunch of logos that you hopefully know. There might be some that you don't, but we're in there. And that's what matters. So I'm just going to say this. I'm excited. I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited about the partners that I get to work with. I'm excited to work with you as customers to really hear about what you're doing and how we can help. And for me, this is where it gets exciting. And I think that the comment made earlier, I don't like being the smartest guy in the room. I am not the smartest guy in the room because the next person that's talking is brilliant. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Thank you for the opportunity for listening. And I really appreciate everyone's time. So Bhushan, I think it's you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me share my slides. Okay. I hope you can see my slides. So thanks, Alex. Really nice presentation there. I will try to match to the person in the room, or I'll find another room in a few minutes as well. But the key thing, I think, message I wanted to carry over is the pharma drug discovery is really a complex process. In the beginning, we thought in the pharma industry, mostly the scientists thought it is nothing but a simple chevron, which is basically identify disease biology, target selection, target validation, lead discovery, and then it's handed over to clinical trial, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and done. That's it, drug in the market. It turns out that it is not as simple as we thought. Even for even a small molecule, the process map is really as complex as it can be. I mean, still, this is a representation of the real complex processes that has been taking place in early drug discovery and to the late phase clinical trial drug discovery. And that is the real challenge that we had been struggling with. Due to this complex nature, the overall time scale of the drug design is still 12 to 15 years without use of AI. This is the pre-AI era we are talking, which now we can see that a lot of AI drugs since last few years has been coming out, has been able to reduce this overall time frame. But we still have the attrition rates, especially failure in efficacy and safety, that has been attributing to our pipelines. And there is a last thing, which is the big elephant in the room, is the cost burden. It is impossible to bear that burden, even to pharma companies, to the patient population, to the government bodies, etc. And that multi-billion is what we need to really reduce down to. Let's look into definitions of what AI is, because we are going to focus later a little bit in my talk on GenAI methods in drug discovery. So I just wanted to set the scene with the artificial intelligence definition. The AI is a branch of science which basically is able to predict, attempts to predict something, mimicking the human intelligence, and there we thought as per a definition of this Bera et al. Basically, we have a group of artificial intelligence as a parent field, which has a machine learning as a subfield where we approach the data ingested and let the machine able to predict the pattern or clustering, etc. It also takes care of a representation learning, which is coming from basically classifying the ML classifiers and other predictors model, which lead to a buzzword called deep learning neural network. And these deep learning neural networks are the one which has been basically impacting a lot more areas, including image classification, image generation, to ideation. What we now know, which is not in the definition, is that there is a new field in the market that can be considered as a distinctive field called generative AI. And what it differs from the classic learning, AI learnings, etc., from machine learning to deep learning, is instead of just classifying the data, it can actually able to generate a new data, a text image, or in case of a pharma drug discovery, maybe a compound, a protein structure, a protein 3D structure, a sequence of a protein, given that set of a trained data on it. And that is the generative AI model that has been making a big impact in drug discovery. What I would like to also emphasize here is that there are actually 4 distinct fields that we talk about when we talk AI in drug discovery. And there are these 4 actually seminal paper, and actually I would say there are 5 seminal papers that you should read, which is on my bucket list actually for a long time, and I had been reading through many times again and again. And the first paper was the Generative Adversarial Neural Network for Ian Goodfellow, and this is a seminal paper appeared early in 2014, where the generative adversarial networks basically able to learn from the generator and a discriminator. So there is a generator which basically generates the image, and the discriminator which will try to discriminate the image and try to reveal whether the generator and discriminator agrees onto the image or not. This field really made it possible to do not only just image recognition, but the pattern recognition and the pattern generation later in the stage. Then we have a variational autoencoder, which basically is takes the input data. It could be a vector of large inputs, let's say various parameters. Then it encodes to lower dimension, and then it kind of decodes back to the higher dimension data to produce to say, is my output is equal to input? And this compression decompression is allowing the data to be learned like a human interpreter behavior. The next model, which is basically quite widely used from, and this is based on the very famous AlphaGo model, where DeepMind's, AlphaGo learns from playing a lot more games by himself, even though it is losing. When the game is owned by the system, it will get awarded. And so that kind of a reward-based feedback learning is what a reinforcement Gen AI models has been doing. And then lastly, the transformer model, which is one of the kind of a complex model, uses the attention mechanism. So it basically boils down to given attention on the input data that they want to learn using the long-term and short-term memory, like a human behavior, human brain. And this is a classical example. The 5th model, which I haven't shown into this diagram, because it is, believe me, it is one of the complex pattern in the Gen AI, is a diffusion model, which is quite difficult to explain in just a simplified format. And that for the sake of brevity, I just decided not to include. But if those who want to read about it, there is a seminal paper in 2020 by Jonathan Ho that talks about denoising the diffusion probabilistic model. It's one of the best paper you can learn on. I'll come back to it where the diffusion model actually used in protein folding later. But again, coming back from the pharma early drug discovery, there are 2 types of model application that we can do. The one is where we have been able to design the new molecules. It's called molecule design. And the second is the protein design or protein engineering. The molecule design includes identifying target agnostic generation. So you just provide some properties and it will be able to generate a structure, a form for you. You provide a shape of a protein binding set and it will be able to suggest a protein ligand binding for you. Or in case of a protein, it could be able to create a structural prediction from the sequence, whether this will be active form of the antibody or not, or a protein or not, or it can even generate a sequence reversely from the structure to sequence back. And then there are also backbone design, and a classical example, which we'll see, is AlphaFold model later in the talk. But then the problem I wanted to highlight with this slide is, and this is student slide, but those who want to look into it can actually review this paper. There are more than 20 models suggested in this particular paper, and I had been given the names here, and you can be able to find across references, and each of them almost available into GitHub repositories along with the code and all. So models everywhere, model zoos has been appearing. Has been multiple models, and as you saw in the previous slide on the Dell, there are lots of models actually appearing in this. We are not even able to cope up with which model is the best. And that is the discussion for the sake of brevity I had been ignoring in the presentation. I'm not battling for one model, because there may be a model which is best today, can be outdated tomorrow, can be augmented with other models and perform better, exactly like what you had been hearing about ChatGPT models versionings, for example. So the similar patterns has been visible into pharma drug discovery a lot. Here is an example, as I've mentioned to you just now, that the LLM models has been doing a lot more buzz around in a layman, that you can actually give let's say a natural language, and they will be able to generate a sentence for you. They will be able to understand, give a text, and they will be understand what this text talk about, and it can identify the sentiments about what this text is all about. Exactly, that can be possible using a sequence of proteins in our early drug discovery. Given the ProLlama model, which is again open source model available fully into the GitHub repository, the link is given there, including how to train your own protein sequences to augment the model. Here, we can actually take ProLlama and then give the protein multitask options for protein. So unconditional protein generation, it can be able to generate you desired domains or desired sites for a protein from given a sequence, or vice versa. It could be using a controllable generation. So you want a specific domains to be retained into protein. You can actually train it and give it, or you want a protein with certain properties of hydrophobicity, superfamily, let's say, that it can be generated. And the classical benefit of doing this is that it is based on the LLMA2 model, which is then retrained with the continuous learning using the protein rather than a natural language. They had been trained to uniref and then been trained to do a protein sequence and property identification. But then in the instruction tuning, you can actually tune them to identify something new which you are interested in, and extend that to more tasks which are not really earlier trained at the beginning of the model. And that is the capability of the GenAI model that we had been able to see into the pharma drug discovery. Again, these models are early phase, but they do hallucinate, etc. But they are doing much better than what we had been seeing in last 3-4 years. And that is the beauty of these models. One of the problem, I think, which I mentioned to you, is a protein folding problem. I'm sure there will be few protein scientists on this call from the pharma, various pharma background. And if you had actually asked a protein scientist that, will it be possible to identify all the possible conformation of that protein on a computer, he would have said no, because in early 17th, Leventhal's predicted that to identify or to calculate n number of amino acid based protein, it will need 3 to the power n minus 2 conformations possible. And to calculate that, it could take more than the age of the universe on the then existing computers. So obviously in 70s, the supercomputers were not as great as what we have. But still would have been costed many, many years today, even on today's supercomputer. That was the basis of Leventhal's paradox, that it will be a NP hard problem, that it will be possible. What Leventhal missed in that time period was, for example, there is no need to calculate each and every conformation of the protein to identify the lowest ground stable state analysis of a protein. To predict this, you just have to find out where is the lowest energy conformation that can lead to from the gradient search and stabilization search, etc., to reach to that stage. And the model can be trained to do that. And exactly that has been what enabled by DeepMind's AlphaFold model. And AlphaFold were able to first time show that for a given protein, you can actually predict the experimental result, which is basically shown into the green here, and to the computational prediction, which is shown into the blue, dark blue, can actually match with 100%. And this is what seminal work was, that it could actually show that AlphaFold really can predict high accurately 36% of the proteins, from the human proteome, which before the AlphaFold predictions were only 14% of the proteome was really known. 3D structures were known. The 22% of them had enough accuracy to identify the active domain site or binding site as a target protein, and the rest of it is still good because they can still give you a hint about what the pocket is. There is few percentage of the protein which are actually intrinsically disordered, which are actually active proteins, but they have no structure. And even that can be now predicted using AlphaFold, because if you cannot make the structure predicted by whatever tweaks into the AlphaFold, it means the protein might be intrinsically misfolded. And this research has been then led to multiple folds, AlphaFold, OpenFold, ESM fold, and there are many other fold models had started appearing. The implications of that is that the hallucination of the protein might have been reduced. And you can see that what AlphaFold predicted in this particular case might not be exactly matching to the OpenFold prediction, but even that is not even matching to the experimental prediction. So even the hallucination has been reducing. However, what we can see that the difference is only in the tail end of the protein, which may not be as domain specific for a drug discovery. And I think that is seminal. That is what is powering today's drug discovery processes to the thing. And the next example really is a retrosynthesis. With the help of tools like AI ZinFinder, a seminal paper again in 2020. Before that, only IBM RxN was one of the reaction prediction tool, which was again using some other deep learning like approaches. But after the AI Zin, which was one of the similar other approaches like AskOS, RetroExpert, RetroExplainer, and Graph Retro has been appearing. And each of these models and their code has been in open source on the GitHub repository. So can we, for example, come on to consent that saying, given this structure, I can use in multiple models in an ensemble form to predict the consensus of giving me a better route to synthesize this molecule into my laboratory. And that is a really revolutionized world. Once you had a molecule, once you had a protein of your interest, then you have pocket to mole like papers again appearing, and then the models has been again kept into a public domain. There is a full fledged of code which you can train it on your proprietary proteins to then put those into identifying the pocket to mole to say which molecule is going to bind into my pocket, and then the approach is then extended suddenly to make it to pocket crafter by doing the in-silico high throughput workflow scaling workflow kind of workflows to do hit generation and rapid hit generations and all. What is good about these approaches is they do care about the traditional approaches and the deep learning, the GenAI approaches, along with some other validation approaches, or the other scoring approaches, the computational chemistry approaches that has been there for last 20 years. And so merging all this together and doing it as a scoring, you do make sure that your library is actually not generating the gibberish results, etc. And that has been seminalized, I think. The key problem with all of this, the reason I'm showing you here is models everywhere, and hundreds of models are there. How can we cope up with all these models? And the only way to do this better is really the domain expertise. We need to bring the model to those who have actually expertise to understand and use those models. There is a democratization of this GenAI, which is needed for enabling what we have a dream in pharma, for example, smart patient care, smart inhalers, smart manufacturing, and smart automation labs, automation in R&D, etc. To make that happen, we need to merge these edge devices with the on-prem and cloud devices, along with the full infrastructure capabilities to deploy this model in anger, and then bring that to democratization to those who had been really running in the forefront in the labs, to make sure that they can get a hands-on this model, rather than just a few coding scientists who can only code in Python and get access to this labs. And the last thing, I think my slide is all about responsible GenAI. There are ethics, acts, and regulation that we need to be aware of. For example, Gartner reports that 30% of the GenAI projects will be reduced by 2025 because there will be some better models in the market than the previous GenAI models, etc. That is inevitable. I think the 30 number may be more conserved. It could be very high because it might be more than that. Models can be discarded because of their performance with the compared to other models. However, the real challenge is not just the problem with the models. It's actually the acts that has been coming in enforcement. For example, UAI Acts has been approved in 2024, which leads to a lot more, let's say, rigorous questions on which data you are training on, what version of data you're training on, what are the governance due diligence you're training on, etc. You need to be aware of that. At the moment, drug discovery, the early phase drug discovery may not be in the realm of the act, but sooner or later, for example, FDA will provide a guidelines for using the AI ML in pharma, which already they had been doing it. And then we need to follow those guidelines. We have to adhere to that. And the data governance, as we saw in the previous talk by Alex, that the volume, structured, unstructured, etc., that has been increased. The data governance need to be taken care of. We need to make sure that which of the models we are building with the model ML ops, DevOps, and security ops that need to be taken care of. And with that, this is the only contribution I did for this presentation. As I said, I'm not the smart guy in the room, so I need to find another room soon, is to generate a GenAI more paper kind of, image for my point that here is a height of a Statue of Liberty around 92 miles. The Statue of Unity is double the size, 186 meters high. And then the list of GenAI paper on my ARX view is, I think, more than 15 story building taller. And I could be able to generate this image just by putting a prompt called a pile of research papers taller than 10 ml. By doing this, in the OpenAI, OpenArt SDXL model, the model could understand that in the enhanced prompt, I'm interested in identifying the towering pile of research paper, the surreal in architecture landscape, the contrast, etc., the lights, the challenging gravity, and all kind of added points which is put it. And this is what we call it, the context-specific questioning, querying to the model. Those who are saying that the model hallucinates in the GenAI is simply because they are not giving attention to their enhanced prompts or the context setting into their query. And that is just wanted to make a point by creating this image. And I think I would stop here and hand it over to Jay. Thank you.
Jay, I'd hate to be you. You got to follow these two guys. Good luck. Dr. Bonde, thank you for your attending today. Wow, you light up the room every time you talk, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, I know. I can't live up to the standard, but yeah, it's a very exciting space, and especially the experience in last 2 years that we got in GenAI is really well summarized by the scientist Bhushan, that it's all about context, and getting the context right is such a big deal when we talk about GenAI. So in machine learning world, we used to call data garbage in, garbage out. In the world of GenAI, we say that get the right context, get the output, and it's easier said than done. Coming to GenAI in a box. So GenAI in a box is the idea where the software, the model, AI models, I mean, and infrastructure, hardware, all come together to help industry, like let's say pharma industry. Because if you see the adoption of GenAI, even though we all see the promise and we all see the hype and buzz, the adoption of GenAI hasn't been simple. There are like so many use cases that we hear about that have shown promises in pilot stage, but struggle to get into production. And over the last 2 years, we have seen like what are those challenges that actually stops enterprises to getting real value from this really powerful models and promising use cases. So when we talk specifically about pharma, the first thing that came to light was the security, the privacy of data. Companies want to protect what molecules they are working on, what data they are using, and a lot of it. And that made first challenge, like, okay, how do we use public models? How do we put stuff on cloud? And that when we started trying to solve this problem, rather than focusing on problem, our attention used to get into how do you make cloud models work for solving problems with on-prem data. We tried to build all these privacy preservation layers and things like that, and sort of made our life even more complex. Then we said, okay, why not actually use really purposeful model that really solves one problem really neatly, and pick these handful models, take them on-prem, and then actually elevate the privacy concern. And that's the data security, data privacy. That's the first thing that we thought of GenAI in a box, when we bundle the whole of the technology in and make it ready to go, can add value. And the second challenge that even today many organizations are facing is what about accuracy and performance? The models are slow. Generative AI models are probably 100 to 1,000 times slower than our IT algorithms or computing. So that is a challenge, and accuracy of this model is challenging because there is always a claim that, oh, this GenAI model hallucinate. How do we use it? And the answer to the accuracy is found to be, how do we get the right context? And that is, again, a very challenging thing, because if you train the model with your data, and we have large amounts of data, and we train the trained model, we call it like a closed book approach, the models tend to forget things and they hallucinate. So the workaround, or the solution that we found to be really working to improve accuracy, is to actually work with model alongside and have a knowledge graph, a hierarchical information, a graph information interconnected, and use that to rely accurate information for the model in real time, which actually brings us to this RAG and the advanced RAG pattern, which I will talk about, is to make sure that how do we retrieve accurate information and contextualize the problem we are solving at the time. And that is the whole solution that we have built. We actually boxed in this GenAI in the box, so that we make sure that the models that we build, the solution that we build, actually work. They work accurately. They work with variety of information like structured data or unstructured data, information, connection, the metadata about whether it's genes, proteins, disease, pathways, and so on. And those are the actually examples and work that we did, and found that it is working, and it's working accurately enough that pharma company use it for drug discovery acceleration. And the third thing is adoption time and the cost. That's also a big challenge, because if you have to set this up from scratch, like, okay, people start with vector databases and RAG and the models and things like that, then they realize actually it doesn't work accurately, and then they try and work for the solutions, and it's like a long journey, which it took us for 2 years. We tried to package that all in the GenAI in the box, so that that same time don't need to be reinvested, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And of course, that saves a lot of efforts and time. So that's the whole idea of creating this GenAI in the box. This is the story, like how we start from a pre-trained model. Then there are a lot of efforts on fine-tuning the model with data that pharma company use in about disease, drugs, molecules, and all. And as I told, this closed book approach have their limitation because they hallucinates. Then the RAG came in, and RAG showed that there is improvement. But what we realized that the RAG is also limited. It cannot handle sort of complexities of the metadata and associated information. It does not have the hierarchical concept, because it treats all information in like a flat vector store and try to just search from it. So rather than doing this similarity search, we had actually the complex metadata annotated graphs along with the information, so that the retrieval is smarter. We use LLM to generate those queries, and that's why we call it a intelligent retrieval. And then because in the work that we do in drug discovery or some of this toxicity analysis and things where the accuracy is also very important. So we actually focus on summarizing based on the information that we have, and stop LLMs from generation, so that again restrict hallucination. So these approaches have proven to be much accurate than the initial approaches of training LLM with models. Now, what is inside the box? So this box that we have built together with help of Dell, actually, if you look inside, we ingest a lot of information from all these different sources, be it your HR system, your drug database, your existing knowledge, clinical knowledge graphs or research paper, and so on, and connect all that information in this metadata knowledge graph. So that's where the models get the understanding, and this knowledge graphs can provide the adequate context when LLM is actually trying to work on the problem. And then, of course, we couple that with a vector store. So every node in the knowledge graph actually has an embedding so that AI can work and search through that. And then, as I told earlier, we have the intelligent retrieval system with a LLM repository, and we use the right LLM of the right size to do that, and sort of then the layer for interface and solve the business problem. But actually, I will move really fast now because I see that I need to give some time for question and answer. I'm sure you will have a lot of question around this, but this is how the box looks inside. It has this metadata knowledge graph, and there is a pilot workload and the production workload that we have, and some of the benefits basically of this box, which I talked to you earlier about. I think stop here and give at least close to 10 minutes for Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. That was great. And thank you, everyone there. Alex, I think, or Paul, can you see the questions? We have a number of questions that have come in. Alex, can you see them? And maybe
Yes,
you
sir.
can moderate that.
I've tried absolutely. I've tried to address all of them. First off, I would be remiss if I didn't call out. It's tough to know who's the dumbest one in the room because we're all claiming to be the dumb ones, but a very impressive presentation for everybody. We got a lot of compliments, and there was one question about, in particular, what's different between IBM Watson and what we're seeing here and what's happening here. And, you know, the way to verbally address, I wrote down a little quick note, but the way to verbally address that is that in previous attempts from a lot of organizations, not just that one, there's been an attempt to sort of own the data, to own and manage all of it, to be owning all of the outcome of it. And what I would say is, I've yet to see anybody win against open source. I've yet to see anybody win against a group or community of researchers trying to solve a problem. In particular at the global scale that we're seeing now for protein management and discovery. And our goal isn't to own. Our goal is to proliferate. Our goal is to allow people to accelerate what they're trying to do, not to own and manage the outcome of it. And what I see as a difference, you know, I get to be a part of, like, you know, the AI hype discussion of, is it hype or is it real, and all those other good things. I will tell you, this is the first time I've been in technology for more years than I care to admit, Joe. I think you and I, you're teasing me about maybe looking a little bit, but I've been around the block for a little bit. And what I'll tell you is, this is the first time I've seen this type of AI adoption, this type of interest from researcher down to everybody else on, wait, this can solve some real problems real fast. And I use AI every day at this point in my day-to-day life in terms of summarizing my emails and getting everything else. So I want to point out, where we get excited at Dell isn't owning anything. It's supporting you, accelerating the outcomes. And I think I speak on behalf of everybody on the phone when I say that. So.
No, it's exactly. I mean, one of the things I think, I don't think still think that IBM Watson is kind of, you know, failure. Every early project in AI was a failure. Every model we built it earlier was not doing what it was doing. Take an example of DeepMind's AlphaGo and other models. I mean, the earlier models were failure. It's just that they didn't publicize it to us. And IBM, unfortunately, was the first company to have such a large scale AI predictor system like IBM Watson. I mean, it still won the Jeopardy. I mean, it still had some intelligence in it. Whether it has the capacity to do like generative AI, it was the early days. Let's call it early days. It put IBM Watson proved to be a stepping stone for others to say, yes, it can be done. and that is what it contributed to the society. I mean, other than I don't know much about IBM Watson. I only came across the literature, etc. But I haven't hands-on experience with it. But yes, they were the early company, and so yeah, I think they did their share in the market. I guess.
Gentlemen,
So I'd like to.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead,
go
Jay.
on.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just one more point is like they have Watson X now, which is a GenAI version, but the fundamental difference is the models, no matter how good and what they do, they generally or they will lack the enterprise context. And what we do in a GenAI in the box to actually provide that additional context, we can pick whichever model and put that in a box or make it work with the box if it is an external model. So you can still use that, but providing the right organizational context to it, curate it in a manner that AI can understand and use it, and then give accurate answer pertaining to your question in your organization. That is the main difference. And it is actually not a difference really, but it's how we complement models to solve the problem. I just want to highlight that.
I'm gonna contribute one thing here, and I don't like sales pitches because I like to throw out the information and say, get in our network and you're gonna learn something. We're not gonna say press hard. There's 3 copies. We're not selling used cars. We want to help, and we want to create an environment where we can collaborate. But I would say this: when you look at all the great tech companies in the world, and you look at the founders, there's only one guy standing. Really, it's Michael Dell. And he has personally taken this on as his mission. And I believe in him, and he's getting the most traction. He's throwing the most resources. He's throwing his company at it. Whether you use Dell or not, I consider him, trust me, you're going to learn something. I really passionately believe that. So we're going to close this out, Paul, right? So
Yeah,
I'm going to make an offer.
There is one more question that came to me.
Go. Let's answer the question.
Via email. So I'm sorry it didn't show up, but the question is what role or how much of a role did GenAI play in the development of the COVID vaccines across the board? There were, Alex, you spoke about, 10 years down to 10 months, and I think we saw that compression of time with COVID. Maybe you guys can answer that.
It would be remiss to say that you weren't using at least HPC and the inklings of beginning models for that. What I'll say is that there was an unprecedented global effort to get those vaccines completed. And it was 1,000% using every tool available, including AI. There weren't, the chat GPTs and the other, those just weren't available. But there was a tremendous amount of molecular AI being used across the board. But Bhushan,
I was a part of interdisciplinary team which includes multiple pharmas and academic groups called Moonshot Approach for COVID. And we were not doing vaccine, but we were surely doing the anti-inflammatory drug discovery. And I was involved in using the representation by a company called UCB Celltech Pharma. My part was to basically find MPRO was a protein which identified as a drug target for killing the COVID. And for that protein, we were trying to identify number of compounds which all the pharmas willing to say this is antimicrobial, and we are going to waive the rights of these compounds if it is really going to kill the COVID. And so they pulled out, and the pool was around 300,000 compounds were donated by all the pharmas around the globe. Whoever wanted to say, okay, they taken this pool. If it hits the COVID, then we'll waive the rights to be a COVID drug. And so we did all the docking studies of these MPRO proteins by using Microsoft philanthropic grants of around 400,000. And we didn't use all the 400K worth of cloud compute, basically GPUs from Microsoft. But for that particular 3 weeks period, if you are looking for GPUs in the world on Microsoft Azure, you will not get it because I was using it. And so it was a tremendous effort. We did it. It was not a GenAI model, I would say, but it was still a huge high performance compute approach that we did it, because GenAI was just emerging. Various models has been emerging that time, and we were really racing against time that time to find a drug rather than focus on basic research of the GenAI. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Do we have any other questions?
I think that's it, Joe.
Okay, so I want to throw out, gosh, I've never seen a webinar where so many people have stayed on, and we really appreciate that. I guess, thank you. The material is compelling, and we're going to have it on video, and we'll get that out to you guys, and we wanted to share it. You can share it with your teams. We're going to throw an offer out here to everyone that's attended today, and we'll follow up with an email, but we're going to offer a no-charge workshop with Jay. Hopefully we can get Alex, but Dr. Bonde, to just sit down, network with, tell us what your journey is, tell us what you've learned. We'll tell you what we've learned, and we'll give you some ideas. Okay, we're going to do that for free, and that's, can I tell you, Dr. Bonde is not cheap. I'm sure Alex isn't either. So we're going to throw these guys at you to sit down for free. We're also, if you do decide to have a meeting with us to network on this, we're going to send you a custom Accion Yeti cooler mug, GenAI version. So you can have that on your desk, and that's a gift to you. So we really, really appreciate it. We thank our panelists who are unbelievable, great speakers, great material. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
We'll have the video and the Q&A and the presentations posted shortly, guys. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.